Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, September 20th. We're on the Americas account. I need to play 9 taunt minions. And frankly, I don't have a single taunt anything, so I'm just going to get rid of this custom warrior and decide. Let's see, warrior with taunt. Let's see, choose this, and then we'll type in taunt. If I can hit one button at a time. Taunt, okay. Taunt, 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 taunt. Not a lot of taunt minions for warrior. I think I'm grabbing several minions here that aren't actually taunts. Alright. But that probably should be enough to do a quick and dirty deck and just jump in here and play. And then we can move over to the European account and potentially finish. We've got a decent amount of news still going around, but not a lot. The only reason we even have a decent amount, I think, is because I had some games left over from Wednesday and I curated some of those, but I'm still very iffy on my curation. Like, sure, if something is just a low effort asset flip piece of garbage, I know I can curate that and get rid of that. But even there, a few times I'll leave some and just go, oh, well, here's another cheap Chinese game, or here's another cheap Russian game. So let's report on maybe the general wave and theme of, yes, on a near daily basis, every weekday we get a cheap Chinese game or a cheap Russian game or a cheap Portuguese game. But yeah, there's a lot of things too that are just in the middle where they probably don't deserve to go on the follow list, but there's something to be said as far as why they do. Silence an enemy minion or taunt. Interesting. So now he's got a 0-3 without taunt on the field. Ubisoft has some job listings. They're looking for a physics programmer in Montreal, Quebec. Pretty much you have to be able to be bilingual in English and French, though, to work in Canada. So take that also. But apparently they're looking for physics middleware, especially Havoc middleware, which is interesting because I really wouldn't have thought Havoc was still being used. So that does give us a bit of an indication that the next potential Assassin's Creed game or Ubisoft game in general is going to use Havoc, which is interesting, I suppose. TechRaptor has an article. Super Crate Box loots and shoots its way onto Nintendo Switch October 1st. This looks like a low-effort platforming game on the Nintendo eShop. In a weird way, with the Nintendo eShop opening up more and more to these low-effort games, it feels like I've doubled my work unintentionally. The right thing for me to do would be to curate all the games I'm looking at right before I go on live, but if I did that, I'd be late every single stream. So, yeah, I don't know how you fix that.
What you want?
Stand down.
Get that in the face, I guess. Moving on, Gematsu has an article for the PC, PS4, Switch, and Xbox One. Indivisible opening animation. Indivisible, if I recall correctly, is the game with the... It's like a half action platformer, I think, and a half RPG experience that's been in development for a long time. I can't really show much of this, and it's taking forever to load anyways, because this is almost going to get content guaranteed to be content ID. Yeah, I remember this intro that it just crashed. Interesting. I remember that intro in particular, that opening animation, in part airing nearly 2 years ago, if I recall correctly. This and this.
Stand down.
Indivisible is out for PS4, Xbox One, PC October 8th in North America, October 11th in Europe, and it's coming out for the Switch later in 2019. So, it is with cautious optimism, I think, that you should be excited about a game like Indivisible, because it could very good chance it's a nothing game. It's basically just slightly better animated and prettier than a lot of other games we've seen in the meantime. But there is also a chance that it's a poorly finished product or an unfinished product that just had to be forced out of development. Inherently, this is a problem of announcing a game way too early, and Indivisible is a great example of that. So you have an example of a slightly overhyped game that was announced too early that looks really pretty. That implies to me that there could be gameplay mechanic problems, poor level design, super short gameplay in general. There could be simply just a bad experience for many different reasons. Could have bad audio. So, yeah. I would actually be, if I was going to bet, I'd put my money on the Indivisible is actually going to be a disappointment compared to that it won't. TechRaptor has another article here. NeoCab launches October 3rd, free demo available now. NeoCab is another example of a game that I think is going to be really, really short and mostly just a text-based visual novel simulator as you play as a futuristic Uber driver who's just trying to get information on a greater mystery. I suspect NeoCab will be really short and nowhere worth its hype. And NeoCab, again, a game that was announced too early. If NeoCab had come out in its first announcement this E3, and that was the first we had heard of it, then released in October, it would have been a lot better, in my opinion. Of course, the entire video game industry builds its life around hyping games, so they've got to hype things for years and years before they actually come out. Moving on, Gematsu has an article for the PC and Switch. Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth Complete Edition has a battle trailer. I guess if this Digimon game is coming to PC, then it's coming out October 18th on Steam. Yeah, I guess this is coming out worldwide. and not just going to be in a Japanese only form. Now, is this a Digimon game to jump in on? Because the Digimon Cyber Sleuth series is the previous series and not the most recent Digimon game that's been announced. And you get the complete edition and you get kind of a warm up to the idea of Digimon if you have forgotten or have never seen any of the Digimon anime or movie or anything. Oh great, the game decided to install a patch. I guess I need to do a little bit of research on that and put that on the follow list while we're waiting for that to happen now. I'm hearing rumors that the Surge 2 is actually good for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It's coming out September 24th. Although I'm not sure I particularly believe the people I'm hearing the rumors from. The Surge 1, from what I hear from the same people, wasn't so interesting or so good. It was just kind of grindy. So it feels like they may have taken the feedback from that and moved forward. Surge is a action hack and slash game where you're cutting off limbs of robots and I think other people and then adding those limbs to your armament, which is a slightly interesting idea, but I don't think that there's much more story to it than that as far as I've ever heard. So it may not really justify playing the first game, even if the second game is good and worth playing. It may just be easy enough to jump into the sequel and say, forget the first game. When you have a situation like that, if I was a game developer and publisher, I'd say, hey, let's give away Surge 1 and make it a free demo for the sequel. Or maybe Surge 1 is just not even good enough to justify that. So perhaps it's better to just hope people forget about it. Alright, well this is going to be a nightmare on the European account. I need to get 6 victories with no overlap. My only chance would be to re-roll. But if I re-roll and I get something lesser, I'm going to lose 10 gold. But I don't want to spend the rest of this day doing this. Like that's going to be super annoying. So, do I want to play Rogue Warrior? No. Let's re-roll this. And then I just need 3 victories with the Shaman or Warlock. Let's play a little Warlock. Casual, Warlock, 2 Warlock play. I said last stream that I can't even think of any games coming out for the rest of the year. I guess the Surge 2 is an example of a game that I probably should have thought of, but so far we're still not really seeing any AAA games coming out anytime soon. Maybe November, maybe in October we'll get something.
Your soul shall be mine.
I guess people are still trying to avoid Borderlands, which makes sense, you know. Give Borderlands the rest of the next 3 or 4 weeks. And then something's going to have to come out and try to compete against it. Surge 2 is an example of a game that is probably too similar to Borderlands, so even when it does come out, it is in the danger of being labeled as a poor competitor to Borderlands 3. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article for the PC, PS4, and Switch. Atelier Ryza updates to add a photo mode, and Puni Rising and more. Atelier Ryza being one of the most recent Atelier games. It's funny to see slimes in a game that isn't a Dragon Quest game,
So many
but
possibilities.
almost certainly they do exist in many games. Raise your own pony. They're calling the slimes pony. Okay. So it's kind of a pet raising simulator feature. Interesting. Again, can't really show this video because it'll get content ID, but we'll see. You can kind of tell that the Atelier costume design is designed in a way to specifically go for more of a Western style of dress. If this was a straight up Japanese fashion, they would definitely be, the main character would definitely be wearing a skirt or dress. But it might also be some character development being implied through the artistic design, too, that she's often doing things like riding horses that would require shorts.
Job's done.
Still really don't know what the Atelier series is, and the video I'm looking at is just showing off the photo mode more than anything. But yeah, it looks like it's a kind of cartoony, kind of good looking JRPG series. Atelier Ryza Ever Darkest and the Secret Hideout is due out for the PS4 and Switch on September 26th in Japan, and the PS4, Switch, and PC via Steam October 29th in North America and November 1st in Europe. So, yeah, I don't know if the Atelier game has been released yet. They're just perhaps updating. They say they're updating, but what they're really doing is they're telling you, hey, here's some more features we haven't announced yet, just trickling out their announcements. I want to be a little bit careful on some of these trickle outs of announcements, otherwise you end up mentioning and hyping a game 25 times before it's even released. Persona 5 in this article, for example, is a great example. PS4 Persona 5 Royal Newcomer Preparation Special live stream is set for September 27th. So an announcement for an announcement to hype people. TechRaptor has this interesting article. Shenmue 3 backers might not get a Steam key according to Yeeznet. It seems like they'd been through that already. And up until this point, the way it seemed like it was being said is that you'll get your Steam keys after the 6-month 6-month exclusivity. Now there's a quote saying, Yeeznet says, quote, negotiations with Valve are still ongoing and it can't make a firm confirmation as to whether Steam keys will ever be available. So it seems like they're acting shady, to say the least. They're trying to instill this fear in you that you won't get a Steam key, so you take the Epic Game keys instead. Yeah, this is shady dealings. Honestly, if you have pre-purchased or kickstarted Shenmue 3, getting a PayPal refund is the best. Is probably your best move. The way Yeeznet and Shenmue 3 have done this has been way shadier than any of the other games, because they kickstarted the game, they promised Steam keys, they've withdrawn that promise, or said that they were going to deliver them after the Epic Store exclusivity, and now they're withdrawing that promise. This is not the proper way to run a business and instill confidence and have an audience that was very energized and interested in playing your game and having your game exist. This is not the way to treat them. At least when you come to Borderlands 3 or Metro Exodus or any of the other Epic Store exclusives, that they've been upfront about it, just saying, hey, it's an exclusive, and that's that. They haven't pulled as much shenanigans as Shenmue 3 seems to have done. And this almost certainly involves, in part, the I played out of order there. The legalese in the agreements with Valve, and Valve not really wanting to be second fiddle to Epic Store exclusives. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article, get a job, Sony Pictures Entertainment is hiring a senior product manager for mobile games. That's in Culver City, California. Again, too many Sony divisions, too many video game developers under the Sony Pictures Entertainment division in particular, when you know Sony Entertainment Interactive already exists, and that's the PlayStation division. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. Then I'm gonna hope 50-50. Let's move on. Apple Arcade came out. Several games we'll cover. TechRaptor has an article. Zen Studios announces an RPG called Dread Nautical. This is not a pinball game from Zen Studios, which is interesting to say the least. If none of these Apple Arcade games ever come to any kind of other platform, it would be a little bit of a loss. Probably not a huge loss, but a little bit of a loss. And it'll be interesting to see how well these games play and work outside of the iPhone and iPad atmosphere.
Let's do this.
Or if they just don't play well at all. It'll also be interesting to see how well these Apple Arcade games play inside the iPad and iPhone atmosphere environment. I still kind of question it, though. I definitely question Apple Arcade in general. But I've already heard some praise for it too, saying this is mobile phone gaming without all the BS. And perhaps in the long run, if Apple had an arcade and Google, Android, Play Store had an arcade, and they both guaranteed like no ads and no telemetrics and no tracking and all the things that you probably legally can't even do for kids anyway. So this was something that I think was probably going to happen anyways. Is this need to have some kind of, you're under the age of 13, therefore we can't track you, therefore we've got to make some money off these games if games are even going to exist. It'll be interesting to see what, if anything, happens to the rest of the iOS store. Oh, I imagine Apple Arcade's intention is to start forcing more and more game companies to put their games that already exist on the iOS store on their new platform, which I'm sure a lot of people might be willing to take them up on that offer. Effectively, they're creating a YouTuber ad for cell phone games. I think that worked pretty well. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Iron Fury patch 1.02 brings Steam achievements, borderless mode, and more. Iron Fury had no business releasing without Steam achievements and borderless mode, and frankly, everything running perfectly on launch. It seems very likely that they didn't want to patch it in case it didn't sell too well, which I totally get that and understand that there's a good chance Iron Fury wouldn't have sold that well, and I'm not sure it really did sell that well, even though it was kind of critically well received as a Duke Nukem clone. Destroy a friendly minion and give your characters +1/+1. Next, we have a game on Steam called Escape Mouse Gun, which is a low-effort asset flip game that is actually trying to sell itself on some, I guess, animal cruelty / brutality imagery. Whatever it is, it's $3.99. It's English only. Clearly not something that would interest me. A rat running through a maze with a top-down twin-stick shooter gun element. Right. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Don't delay. Pitch a talk to GDC's 2020 Production Elemental Summit. I didn't need to report on this. This is an advertisement for GDC from Gamma Sutra, who are both owned by Informa, and that's not disclosed well enough. We already talked about a French court saying that Steam will have to allow used game sales. We'll see it when it happens. Your Game has that same article. I don't think anything is set in stone yet, and I don't think it will be for a long time. And that's the problem with court cases, is that even if you get a ruling, that doesn't mean a lot. Right. Do that. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. NBC Universal is closing down its games publishing division. I assume... Well, no, NBC Universal hasn't merged with anybody. That's CBS and Viacom that merged most recently. So apparently NBC Universal had a games publishing division that they started 2 years ago, and they've shut it down. They published Jurassic World Alive, Turok Escape from Lost Valley, and Voltron Cubes of Ulcarion. I believe some of these games were on sale rather recently on Steam, but clearly that's not a large collection of games to concern yourself with, and not a huge loss, in my opinion, to the video game world in general. Let's see. I'm sure NBC Universal, if I were to guess, is going to just license out its properties to be made into games, and I'm not sure that there's a ton of games that even really are things you would want to make a game off of. There's a few, I'm sure, but not a lot. TV and movie shows are losing their license ability for, I think, for the better. In comparison, Netflix is getting like all of the episodes of Seinfeld, including the parade episode that is not shown on syndication, to replace losing The Office. So it'll be interesting to see if Seinfeld can compete with The Office in most Netflix viewers' minds. I don't know how many people are really watching The Office, but it seems like a lot of people are all the time. And I never could get into it at all, so I'm happy to be out of the loop on that one. Do I want to play or just wait next turn? Let's just play.
Why do you fall?
Next we have a game on Steam called Inside the Cubes, which seems like it's an attempt at a VR kind of Portal game, but honestly it feels like it's more of just a experiment in a VR game without a finalized game experience here, because it doesn't seem like you're really doing anything. You're just standing in one place and interacting with things, but it doesn't seem like there's a real game there. Visually there's an inconsistency here, and there's definitely some weird lines that just seem to appear. This is $2.39 discounted, English only. VR, requires VR. Yeah, just not pretty enough. Just not pretty enough for VR. And way too cheap for a VR game also, so they know it's not very good. Next, Game of Sutra has an article. Yves Matry, appointed CEO of HTC as Cher Wang, has stepped down. So the CEO of HTC, who makes in part the HTC Vive amongst many other things, has stepped down. Will that drastically affect or change how the VR world is going to proceed? Probably not. Actually, as I read further, Cher Wang has stepped down as the CEO of the HTC Vive maker. No, she is stepping down from HTC, but she still will remain in her role as chairwoman on the HTC board following a departure. So she's stepping down as the chief executive officer, but she's still going to be the chairwoman of the board, which, I mean, those are almost exactly the same levels of power. The chairwoman of the board is actually more powerful than the chief executive officer, but the chief executive officer is making day-to-day decisions, and in general has control of the company, where the chairwoman of the board would have to vote to remove the CEO. So interesting, but I suspect not going to change too much. And I'm sure I think HTC is a South Korean company, so there might be more to it or less to it than I know because of that also. This and that. Don't want to discard this character.
Hey, catch!
That. I could get rid of this, but I probably shouldn't. So I'll just draw a card.
Job's done.
Next, we have a game called NAN Industry VR. NAN in programming is short for not a number. It's an error code. This looks like a low-effort polygonal VR puzzle game of sorts. Not particularly interesting, and not something I'd really want to play in VR. Like a puzzle game in VR in particular would be frustrating because you're just gonna exhaust yourself trying to solve the puzzles before you actually could, unless the puzzles are super easy. This is $4.79 discounted, which is still a little too cheap for VR, English only, and definitely not pretty enough. Like, sometimes I come off as shallow, I know, but that's really what it comes down to in video games. Is I do want them to be relatively good looking games.
Sure, send the next guy.
Job's done.
Let's see, next we have a game on Steam called Rebound Dodgeball Evolved, which has a bit of a low polygonal look to it. Is there a real game here, or is this a multiplayer, player versus player experience? This looks like this might be a actually somewhat interesting player versus player expansion. It's basically a clone of, I believe the game is Warlords, but Dodgeball is a fair way to describe it also. $14.99, single player, multiplayer. I don't think I really want to play this though. Because it seems like it's so multiplayer focused. I don't think that there's much of a single player experience to happen here. No story. It'd be really hard to criticize playing against random people. $14.99 is a little too expensive. Not discounted. Full audio English. This might be a good one if you have a crew that likes to play dodgeball against each other. I would question how many people actually do like to play dodgeball against each other though, whether that would be, even if you were particularly young, I think that would be kind of silly.
Sure, send the next guy. Catch! Catch!
There we go, I didn't play fast enough. Always taking too long. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Watch 2 of Greedfall's developers discuss their new colonial RPG. So, if you're interested in that interview from developer Spiders, you can check out this article. Let's see. This.
I'll get right on it.
This. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
No!
Draw a card.
Well,
Attack.
hey, catch!
And attack. Next, we have a game on Steam called Azure Reflections. This is a Sony Music Entertainment published game. It's a bullet hell witch side shooter game. Doesn't look terrible. I don't think I could ever play any of these bullet hell games though. That's the problem. So I could put this on the follow list, but it's iffy. It's real iffy. I believe there's a whole Azure series of games. I kind of need a super easy, you cannot die mode. It's $17.49 discounted. Full Japanese audio, English and Chinese subtitle support, interface and subtitle support. 38 achievements. This is a series of types of games I think I would like to play, but only if I could play them well, and that's the problem. And this developer has only made a demo that is mix reviewed otherwise. Then Sony Music Entertainment as a publisher has put out Tiny Metal and The Midnight Sanctuary. Third Eye is coming out. Yeah. Jinsoko Defenders Plus, I believe, is DLC for a bullet hell side-scroller shooter game. Okay, well, I can't really say anything else about it. Let's see, we need one more Warlock victory and we'll be done for the day, so I'm really far behind on the news, so we may have to spend a decent amount of time just going through news. Gametsu has an article, Outer Wilds has been rated for the PS4 in Korea, which, okay, it's coming to Xbox One and PC via the Epic Games Store on May 29th and 30th. It being rated in Korea doesn't really probably change any bit of information about it. The mobile game that I play, Destiny Child, with the lewd anime girl outfits and costumes, has announced that they are shifting control from, there was like one company that made it called Lineup, and then one company that was handling it called Shift Up, or maybe those names are backwards, and they've announced that one of those two companies is taking control and the other is basically not going to be involved anymore, which might be a great thing. It might be groundbreaking because it might mean they get rid of a lot of the pay to win elements and a lot of the ridiculously large amounts of gacha that's in the game. It's going to be a gacha game, I think, forever, unless they just decide to do a major change on it. But if it was just more realistic, where free players can actually get all of the characters that are available, that would be great. On the other hand, it might be an example of them determining that they've made as much money as they can from the product, and so then they're just now going to kind of abandon it. That's another possibility.
Job's done.
So I have a little bit of trepidation there, but it wouldn't be a terrible thing if the game ended. You don't see that in video games very often, where it just ends and people shut it down and you just play it to the last second, and you have your entertainment and you're told you can't have any more. Usually there's a community left playing, or some way in which you can run private servers or something. Okay. Major pump up there. Next, Gametsu has an article for smartphone games, War of Visions, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, second game overview trailer. I don't think anybody really cares about the Final Fantasy smartphone games, though, in all fairness. So, again, and this is Square Enix, so if I showed the trailer, it'll just get content ID. I'll look at the trailer for a second here. It seems like it is kind of a card-based gacha game with a lot of JRPG elements. It's worth mentioning that the reason why I like Destiny Child more than anything is that it plays itself for the most part. So a game like this Final Fantasy Brave War of Visions is not going to be appealing to me because it would require a lot of direct interaction, which is not what I'm looking for. Next, Gamatsu has an article, Ys 9, Monstrum Nox, Ruin of the Dry Moat, and Underchain Cloaca Maxima gameplay. So these are like monsters that you can show off, and again, not going to show off these trailers, but the Ys series being up to 9 seems to be pretty popular as JRPGs. Going with monsters in this this version is an interesting twist, I suppose. Yeah, I've got them down to 15. Of course, the problem with Ys 9 is that why would I want to try and play Ys 9 without playing the first 8, or at least evaluating whether it's worth to play the first 8? And then if you're that deep into a series, why not just play Final Fantasy 15? And Final Fantasy 15 in particular, really you only have to play Final Fantasy 15. You don't have to play Final Fantasy 13 or 8 or 7 otherwise, because they're independent stories, where the Ys series are definitely not. Watching this trailer, it seems like it is more of a high action JRPG. It's not turn-based. It's a lot of hack and slashing. It's a lot of running around, finding chests, jumping and platforming, which I think would be useful additions for what probably is mostly a dungeon crawler experience.
This was not in my contract.
Let's see. Here. There's some rather large enemies that they're fighting. Yeah, it kind of feels like what a modern World of Warcraft experience would be if you were just playing by yourself. Okay, yeah, Ys 9 looks interesting. But it's a PS4 exclusive also, so what does it matter to me? Next we have a game on Steam called VR Takibi, which I have no idea what that is, whether that's a Japanese word or not. It looks like it's a VR camping simulator of some sort. It's kind of visually interesting, but I think you probably are missing the point of camping to do it in VR. Yeah. I don't really get that. $19.99, no discounted English. Seems like it's probably more of an asset flip VR game than a real VR game. Yeah. This. This. And then return. So today is supposedly the day of the Naruto Run Area 51 thing. So we have no less than 3 games that were released on this date, building around this idea. These are, regardless, even if they were good-looking games and weren't low-effort games, they're still low-effort ideas than low-effort games. So, yeah. Not that there couldn't be a funny type game around this concept. I just don't think there's enough around the concept for there to be an interesting game around that concept. You're inevitably going to make yourself into a meme game $4.99 English full audio, it claims, for Operation Cheek Clapper, which I can only assume is a reference to running. Next, Gematsu has an article for the PC, PS4, Switch, and Xbox One. Warriors Orochi 4 Ultimate launches February 14th, 2020. I think I've pretty much given up on any of the Warriors series. Although this is pretty, to say the least. But, yeah, too much button mashing, not enough story, not enough actual good gameplay. How are we doing on Hearthstone over here? We still need just one Shaman, a Warlock victory. We could try a Shaman, sure. Why not? Gematsu has for smartphones, Tour to Puzzles, Doke Demo Ishio launches October 1st. I think we already talked about this game. So, duplicate tab. Gematsu has Frogger and Toy Town is now available. Look at a screenshot of what it is. And a video of a launch trailer. It'll be interesting, I suppose, to see what the first few reviews of the first 100 or so Apple arcade games are. Because, in all honesty, most people probably couldn't name the first 100 games that were released on the Xbox One, the original Xbox or the original PlayStation, or even the NES or Super NES. It would be harder to name the first 100 of those games, or what just came out on Android Play Store, or the Apple iOS Store. The first 100 games come on that. Or I can't even mention 100 good games on the Android Play Store. Let's see. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Square Enix releases Daily Life and Adventure RPG Various Day Life for Apple Arcade, which seems like a kind of boring concept of an RPG. I want to watch this trailer and see what you actually do. Daily Life and Adventure. Seems like what they probably did is they took a bunch of 3D models they had already had in development or used in some other game and made a kind of simplistic JRPG game around it. But even that might be groundbreaking, because getting a JRPG to feel right even a little bit as far as what's being released on iPhones is hard. It's certainly not something that's been successfully done over and over again. Next we have a game on Steam called Signal Decay. Let's see what this is. It says it's a stealth game. Yeah, it looks like it's a top-down stealth game with a little bit too much darkness and a little bit too much MS Paint level graphics on it. Yeah, this is a case of a game that I think I'm willing to miss, even if it is a hidden gem. It's early access for $12.59, which is way too expensive. It's English and Chinese, which makes me suspect that it might be a cheap Chinese game. And it just doesn't really have a twist here that catches my attention. The thumbnail's not that interesting, and every screenshot is just dull looking and not particularly colorful, for lack of a better descriptor. Appealing, I guess, would be the word to use. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam called Hot Squat New Glory, which seems to be a VR game where you're supposed to be doing squats, which doing squats in VR sounds like a ridiculously dumb idea. Doing any kind of exercise is probably a terrible idea. This is $6.29, which is too cheap for VR. English only full audio. Yeah. And this does not look interesting as a game, and it doesn't look safe or intelligent as a assistant for exercise. If you want to exercise, you need to be in front of a mirror so you can see that you're doing the exercises right and not hurting yourself, and you need to be aware of your environment at all times and not in a VR headset. It's a really, really dumb idea
This guy's
to do that in VR. Unless there was some kind of cameras on you and they were watching how you were moving and watching your environment, but you'd have to 100% trust those cameras, and I don't think I would.
A new Valore Dana.
Next, we have another low-effort Area 51 game, Storm Area 51. Here we can see some dark screenshot syndrome and low-effort graphics and asset flips. So several people thought this was a good joke to make. At the very least, in this case, this is discounted to 59 cents, which is the lowest price possible, and claims of lots of language supports, which I doubt, and 43 achievements. So now, my fear and feeling is that this whole Area 51 thing is just a Russian troll, and we've been seeing a lot of Russian troll games on Steam, so I would not be surprised one bit. I have no evidence to it, but I would not be surprised one bit if all of these Area 51 games on Steam were directly created by the Russian government or funded to be created by the Russian government as a way of doing this troll, as a way of potentially convincing some idiot in the United States to get shot by the guards at Area 51, as a way of eroding trust between the U.S. government and its citizens, which I don't really think that the Russian government needs to bother to erode trust between its citizens and its military. Well, we trust our military, I guess, relatively well. That's a kind of complicated thing, but not super complicated. It's a lazy thing too. It doesn't cost much money to make a low-effort asset flip game and make some Facebook pages and get a bunch of trolls to actually do it. People, as far as I can see on Reddit, did show up at Area 51, so yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. So somebody fell for it at least that far. Xbox Live can now pre-order Frostpunk Console Edition if you're interested in that. As far as a bit of news, Capcom has released an undersea exploration game called Shinsekai Into the Depths, which I kind of want to see what this is. A Capcom game. When's the last time Capcom made a good video game, though? Besides Street Fighter, and arguably Street Fighter is not even a good video game. The most recent ones, full of microtransactions. It looks like this is kind of a platforming game of sorts, 2.5D platformer, where you're kind of like a Metroidvania, but you're going deeper and deeper down the ocean. It's best I can gather from the trailer. Might be something to that. One of the things I guess would be interesting to know is where does this really break down as far as older versions of the iPhone? Like, are there going to be versions of the iPhone that just do not play the games well, and Apple won't care about those older versions, or are all of these games only available for the most recent versions of the iPhone? Alright, well, we've got quite a bit to do, so let's grind out a little bit of the solo adventure, either on this account or the Asian account.
Murlocs! Rafam has unleashed the plagues of Uldum, and only we can stop him. Explorers to me!
Alright. So I'm gonna start this game, concede this game, and start chapter 2. That's the best way to do this.
Finley versus Lieutenant.
Very well. The day is yours.
So, back. And it did reset the Plague Lord's health to 300. Okay.
Everyone who ventures across this desert has gone mad. I think it might be the source of the second plague.
Alright. So we're going to see what at the end of your turn deal 4 damage to a random enemy minion. I don't know which one is the best to do. Overload deck or this. I think that's the best one. And then is this ability really any better? Might be. We'll see. Well, if I'm gonna overload, I should come back and take this, and then take this, and then take this, and then jump in the game. Platinum Games Tweeted out that 5 years ago, Bayonetta 2 came out, so it's been about 5 years. Yeah, 17 hours ago, maybe that was yesterday, they said, which time flies when you're having fun. Today is the 5th anniversary of Bayonetta 2's Japanese release. I don't believe there was a Bayonetta 3, and if there was a Bayonetta 3 that was coming out, I think it was probably going to be a Switch exclusive. I may have completely lost the plot there. It's very possible that a Bayonetta 3 was announced, and I have since forgotten completely about it. Inherently, unless Bayonetta 2 comes out on Steam, it's not a story I'd really want to skip over.
Oh, I shall go mad with thirst.
Hang in there,
Let's
little
see.
buddy.
Next, we have a game on Steam called
Find the
Forest
plague
Home,
lord of madness.
which looks like it's a mobile game where you draw a pass on a puzzle. This may not be too terrible though. I think this actually might be a game worth playing, because it is ported to be widescreen with the backgrounds. Let's see, I guess the question would be, what's the price? Discounted to $7.99. And how many puzzles are there? There's 8 forests to explore, but how many levels in each forest? From the looks of what I'm seeing, seems like there's 25 puzzles minimum, but who's to say that that's not the maximum also? And this is English full audio. No, they've really just priced themselves out of a sale here. $8 for this game. It's not worth it. If you got it down to 2, maybe, but 8 discounted is definitely not worth it. Alright. We want to play this. So we'll start with this.
Job's done.
Okay. Why did that random? Okay. So at the end of each turn, somebody's gonna randomly attack. I forgot about that. How this works.
They happen, you know?
So transform your minions into ones that cost 1 more.
Job's done.
So we want to get the field full of characters as quickly as possible. Next we have a game on Steam called Tales Casino Escape. It looks like an RPG Maker game. Yeah, there's nothing visually appealing about this. It's discounted to $6.74. Full audio English allegedly. Yep. Nope. Nothing there. Alright. Play. Can I discover a battle cry? That won't do anything. Unlock your overloaded crystals. That won't do anything.
Ah, too bad!
Komatsu has an article. Way Forward, the creator of the Shantae series, releases a co-op run-and-gun action game called Spider Swords for Apple Arcade. The trailer for this is crazy. I've already seen it. The actual gameplay I haven't seen any of, so I don't know if it's really going to be a game worth playing or not. Clearly, the fact that there are so many developers that had games in development ready for this, they knew this was happening, which I guess isn't supposed to really surprising by any means. Let's see. Do I play Battlecry? It won't do anything. Discover a Battlecry minion. Set a minion's health to 33. That won't do anything.
The calm before the storm.
I've lost, unfortunately. So here we have 2 out of 3 odds to hit the head with something that would do damage, and 1 out of 4 odds that we actually would win. So I just lost there. So we'll have to start over again. Just not paying attention, clearly. So start all over again with the exact same setup that I had before, and we'll give it another try. I don't think my setup was the problem. I just think, in general, I got unlucky, which seems to be the problem with these solo adventures still. Moving on, Komatsu has an article here for the PC, Switch, and smartphone. Snipper Clip Studios releases mystery adventure game Tangle Tower, which is coming to Switch and PC October 10th. This is the first example of a game that isn't just an exclusive alone. There's a game already on the Steam page. It already has a Steam page. This looks like it's kind of like a well animated, in a different animation style, a paper cutout animation style, kind of puzzle game, I guess. I was gonna call it a visual novel, but It seems like it's only part visual novel. Let's see what the gameplay trailer looks like. With some luck. Well, the gameplay trailer doesn't look much different than the other trailer. Alright, well. This is a game that I guess goes on the follow list. Here it is, Tangle Tower. We'll just go ahead and put it on the follow list, although kind of not necessary. It will come out in 2 weeks, and then I'll potentially remove it from the follow list. Let's see, we are at the point where we could wrap up. I just haven't covered all the news, and I don't really want this to go over. So next we have a game on Steam called Loco Parentis, which I thought for a second was Loco Parents, and it probably is in Spanish. So looks like this might be a horror game. Maybe there's something here, but this could also just be an asset flip horror game. Unfortunately, it just keeps getting down to that. $24.99 is really, really expensive. English and Russian. Ooh, there's a couple of red flags here. There's some major red flags on this. It's way too expensive at $25, and it's English and Russian. I guess I'll be generous and put it on the follow list, but I suspect we will see reviews saying that it is not worth playing after we get a reasonable amount of reviews instead of just 4. Let's see. Do I have any elementals? No. Turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Mythgard, which looks like a deck building collectible card game. It looks pretty, I will grant you that. Who is this Rydo Games? They've got nothing else on Steam, though. It's early access, free to play, requires a third-party account and a third-party EULA, and it's English only, which might be a problem, definitely. Like all collectible card games, I'll put them on the follow list and see if they gain a following, but almost certainly Mythgard is not going to.
Accidents, they happen, you know?
Job's done.
Just gotta keeping on here and burn through all this news. Next we have Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch Remastered, available on Steam. It's already positive, it was already on my follow list. We can remove it from the follow list and just put it on the wish list at this point. $49.99, so no launch sale apparently. I would be very happy to play this game so that I could play the sequel. I think Ni no Kuni in particular opens the door to a JRPG series that has only 2 games in the series. It's kid friendly in its animation, and it's kid friendly I think for the most part in the story. It's well received. It's got Ghibli-esque animation in at least the first game. So it, more than like Final Fantasy, more than anything else really, Ni no Kuni is a great point for me in particular to jump on board. Right, let's see this.
A noble knight needs a brilliant weapon.
This. And then we can do that.
Job's done.
And it has lifesteal. So yeah, I'm excited about Ni no Kuni. It is in my current financial situation, it is a case of a game that I really would like to see somebody gift me, because I won't be able to buy it, and it probably won't be on sale for a while. So probably some time to think about it, but and there's kind of maybe a lack of relevancy a little bit, because even if I was to get Ni no Kuni 1 that is now on PC in its remastered version, play it all the way through, then play Ni no Kuni 2, there hasn't been an announcement for Ni no Kuni 3, so even if there is a third in the series, it's gonna be a while away. It hasn't even been announced. At the start of your game, set the attack of each of your minions equal to its health. Would I have a lot of things with high health? Not really. After you play a minion, shuffle 2 copies into your hand. They cost 1, or enemies have -1 attack. I think enemies have -1 attack is a little bit better than Elixir of Vigor, but both of those abilities are pretty useful. Meanwhile, we probably could use some things. Let's get the knife juggler. That'll be interesting. See how many knife jugglers we can get as the characters move around in the final boss battle. TechRaptor has an article here. Terminator is coming back to first-person shooters with Terminator Resistance, which I suppose is something to be interested in. I guess it's been maybe 10 years since the last first-person shooter Terminator game to happen, and the Terminator movie series and concept is certainly not a terrible thought. Apparently it's coming out for the PC, PS4, and Xbox One November 15th. That's early. That's earlier than I thought a game like this would come out. So you kind of have a right to be a little suspicious at that point when the game, I believe, has just been announced and it's out in a couple of months, where a well-made Terminator game almost assuredly would have been at E3 and announced. So I would say be very, very cautiously optimistic there.
Job's done.
I have to remember I'm playing single player, so if I don't end the level. Next game we have on Steam is the Area 51 Secret, the Boombox Killer. So yet another troll game, and I believe this is probably just all live action joke footage. $1.94 discounted, English, full audio. Yeah, garbage, more garbage troll games. So I was not lying, at least 3 of these things came out on the exact same day, the day of it. There really hasn't even been a lot of games before today, and I suspect we won't see any games after today. Of course, the real question is, why not have Valve just say no to anything with Area 51 in the title being released in the next 6 weeks or so? Like, that would have been easy enough for Valve to say. It's like, no, we're not going to sell this game because this is clearly a meme game and a troll game. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Grappling Hook, which looks like it's a VR experimental project for grappling and swinging with a bunch of asset flips. It's free to play, so I guess the price is right, but requires VR. English only. Alright. Let's see. This won't work. This'll work. this story is a little interesting. Techcrafter has an article, unlock a Lego version of Bastion in Overwatch with Bastion's Brick Challenge. Now, it is worth mentioning that about a year ago, Overwatch did have a cross-promotion deal with Lego, so it's not completely out of nowhere that there would be this type of experience, but it is a little bit surprising, to say the least, that it's happening now. Let's see. Get it down to 1. Let's see if that wins the game for us. Because so many things have negative 1 attack, they can't do anything. They just become these 0-1 creatures. It's not until they start off as a 2-1 attack. Let's go ahead and play this and go. Then do that and move forward to the next level. We're not going to play all the way to the end here. That would take another hour. Unless I just have a ridiculous amount of news still to go. Murloc. Do we want to go down that Murloc route? Find shields and taunts. Now restore 3 health. Gotta take that. Yeah. Robold. Let's see. After you summon a mech, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. Passive ability. So, as a Lego skin, this doesn't look amazingly Lego because the scale is really big. Like, one stud is the size of his fingers, where you could have done a lot more detail, and this looks a lot more like a transformer than a Lego skin. Let's see. I don't know how many people are still playing Overwatch in general. I don't know what else to really say about that. It's like, I feel like Overwatch successful for a year or two, but being an Activision Blizzard product, it's probably approaching maintenance mode quicker than it should, and I wouldn't be surprised if Fortnite just stole all of its audience a long time ago. Right. Just go ahead and take that.
Job done.
Techcrafter has an article. Bandai Namco files trademarks for 5 remasters. What are the 5 remasters are they going to be? Katamari Damacy Reroll. The games will all have Encore after their name. Genpai Tuma Den. I have no idea what that is. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up where you kill demons. Klonoa Encore, where Bunny travels to various worlds and uses puzzle platforming to save dreams. Mr. Driller, Splatterhouse, and Wagon Land, Splatterhouse, and Mr. Driller I'm familiar with. Wagon Land is a platformer featuring a mechanical dinosaur. None of those games sound particularly interesting. This is, I guess, the problem with Bandai Namco in a nutshell, is that they're all kind of garbage games, and they always kind of have been. You don't... Bandai Namco, while it does often have licenses to other Bandai anime things, those anime games are often terrible, and everything else is often terrible.
I can see what is to come.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Racing Angle, which looks like it's a textureless racing game. Doesn't look terrible, just doesn't look really great. It's too red. It's a bad color palette, bad background, skybox. $1.99, 15 levels in that. Probably not terrible, but not really worth purchasing either. English and Russian, so it's probably a Russian troll game. 15 achievements. Yeah. Nothing there. Screaming high quality. Alright. This. And let's go ahead and do this. Monitor. Next we have a game on Steam called Diorama Dungeon Crawler, which seems like it's almost a attempt at actually doing an art style instead of just explaining away why your art stinks. The art does still kind of stink here, but you're almost doing a colorized version of a Virtual Boy game where you can jump from the foreground in the background, but the gameplay seems kind of repetitive and dull. So they may have gotten the art style down, but the gameplay looks bad. And looking through the screenshots, I don't see anything that varies it too much, so it seems like you'd spend a lot of time looking at the same thing. $7.99 is too expensive. Discounted. English Velati. Nope. Just not quite good enough. Maybe I'm just getting more picky, but yeah, it does feel like more and more I'm running into games I just don't even think need to be on the follow list. Probably a good thing that I'm getting more picky, frankly, though, because there's no reason for the follow list to be as large as it is. Next we have a game on Steam, and this is one of the ones that was on the deep dive, Demonica Everlasting Night. Seems like it's kind of a little bit lewd in its screenshot here, but it's not tagged with any kind of sexual content. Seems like she was hurt and stitching herself up. It's a Metroidvania game. It looks rather interesting. Looks like it's got a dark demonic art style. Maybe it is a little bit lewd in its depictions. $12.74. It's bundled with some other games that look like garbage. That's suspect. English, Italian, Russian, Chinese, Spain is an odd combination of languages. I'm going to put this on the follow list and we'll see how many reviews it gets. It's got 18 mostly positive reviews right now. Its gameplay, when the video actually shows me gameplay, looks interesting. It looks like there's a attempt to be something between like some of the other Metroidvanias we've seen. I forget the names. Alright. This. And then this. And then in the turn. So yeah, I'll put that on the follow list and we'll see what the reviews say later. Here's that other game, Hot Lava, that I saw in the deep dive. So it explains why these games were getting shown on deep dive, is that they just came out and I wasn't aware of that. I've been watching Hot Lava for a while and it's rated very positively. There's several lava games on Steam, and if this one works and this one actually plays right, I have really no reason why I wouldn't want to put it on Steam. Let's see. It includes the level editor. It has a third-party EULA. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the wish list. I'm questioning now. A Hot Lava game, or the Floor is Lava game, really is just effectively a example. Oh, what am I trying to say? It's effectively an example of just a parkour game. And let's see. This. Attack here. Attack there. In the turn. And with the exception of Mirror's Edge, I haven't seen a lot of parkour games that were super interesting. So I need to be a little careful around that. Here I can just win and move forward.
Global powering down. Cobalt detecting.
The map of Ul'Dan is discover a card and a mana crystal. This card is really good. Give all minions in your deck +2 attack. Death Rattle, return this to your hand. That's pretty good. Rush Reborn. Steal a card from your opponent's hand. That's an interesting idea. Actually, play more cards or steal cards? I'm gonna take this. I still think that's a little bit better. Alright. See, body wrapper. This art image for this mummy girl, body wrapper, I suspect will get censored in some other way rather quickly now that they've started censoring images, just because her brown, completely wrapped body is going to be too tight for their artistic desires in a few years. Let's see, return your other minions. Let's do mechs. Need to hurry up and finish all this news, which there's still a ton.
How delightful.
Sure, at least temple.
I shall endeavor to network, as they say.
Okay.
Well, hello there.
I
Happy
could
to help
fill
you
the
in these
tavern with
trying
new
times.
minions. I could discover a spell and then add it to my adventure deck to always start in my hand. I could replace something. Or I could add all of these minions. Think add all enemies to the adventure deck, they
Oh,
get
you're
+1.
buying then. Sounds good to me.
And then is there something we want to replace with this? I don't think so. I could just get more health. Or I could fill the tavern with new minions. For 0, I guess it doesn't matter.
Okay. Let's try something else.
Discover a spell and have it in the start. It always starts in my hand. Or replace something. Could replace this. It doesn't cost anything. Jade Golem or this? I'll take that. Do I want to start with a spell? The spell could be anything. or do I want to increase my health? Let's just increase
It's hard
our
to
health.
find food this good out here, isn't it? Don't go falling into any giant sinkholes, all right?
It's kind of slow transitioning back from level to level. Next we have a game on Steam called Overland, which has mixed reviews as a post-apocalyptic turn-based strategy game. This isn't the zombie game in Brexit, I don't believe, but it looks somewhat similar. You can see it's already mixed reviews. I'll give it a follow just to see if maybe it fixes it, whatever problems it has right now. $24.99 though seems like a really high price for what you're getting. A lot of language support, 48 achievements. This game might be extremely difficult, and that might be part of the problem too. I'll certainly wait till the next follow list cleanup and see how this scores. This is the exact card you want to start with. Just a major boost on turn 0. Right. So discover 3 and gain 3 mana crystals. So guess we could get Memram's Head, and then I guess we could get that, and guess we'll take that. Alright, and then we do this, and then we'll do this, and we do that. And what else are we looking for? Take that.
Job's done.
Let's see. Move to another deck. What is that? My Hearthstone deck tracker is freaking out. I'm not exactly sure why it started freaking out, but okay, whatever. Let's do this, and then this, and this.
Photonic burst.
Next we have a game on Steam called Forgetful Dictator, which probably is a low effort strategy game. No, it seems like it's more of a troll game more than anything else. Screenshots don't look appealing or interesting. $13.49. 21 achievements, English only. I'm really not appealed. It's really not an appealing looking game. Looks like it's a half visual novel, half Risk. It's from a company called Please No More, which is a troll name in general. So it's tagged as educational. Yep. Seems like you have to click on an area and tell them what country that is. Let's see. This, and this, and
Not on my
take
watch.
that, I guess. We'll just go and attack. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Annals of Rome, which looks like an old CGA DOS game. It says it came out 1986, alright, that I guess maybe makes some sense. Apparently it's actually from, is this Mirrorsoft or Microsoft? I can't read it. Mirrorsoft, yeah. Well, it looks like garbage. And certainly I've never heard of this game. $3.24 discounted, English only. Yeah. If we can get that on the field, and we could just find one more mech. That's all we would want.
Photonic burst. This is my responsibility.
This is a new way.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Survivors Left X. This looks like a low effort game. Some kind of like maybe keyboarding game? Yeah, it seems like it's almost like a lemming keyboarding game of some sort. $1.99, English full audio. Not appealing. Let's see. No elemental here.
I have no time for games.
Photonic burst. This is my responsibility.
Take cover!
Next, we have a game on Steam called Ebullition LVR. I have no idea what that word would stand for, but it looks like it's a zombie VR shooter game. It doesn't look terrible. Looks like it might be a stand in one place and shoot zombies VR game. Not a terrible thought. It's $24.99, which is the right price for a VR game. It requires a third-party EULA. It's English full audio. I'm going to put this on the fall list, and we'll see if it comes out of early access. If it does, it still would stay on the fall list, because I'm almost certainly never buying a VR headset. But I've certainly seen many, many worse VR zombie games. Okay, 1 hour ago, here we have a YouTube creators thing. This was before I even opened this. To our creators and users, I'm sorry for the frustration and hurt that we caused with our new approach to verification. While trying to make improvements, we missed the mark. As I write this, we're working to address your concerns, and we'll have more updates soon. So she's either doing a full 180, or this is just a big we'll address your concerns, or we won't address your concerns, and we'll say we address your concerns. Either one is very possible. Knowing YouTube as well as I think I do, Battle Cries Trigger Twice, probably not a terrible card to play. And that wasn't even what I was gonna open. I was opening YouTube creators Twitter feed just to talk about the verifications. They said that no one lost verification yesterday. If you received an email that your channel is no longer verified, this was just advance notice and you can appeal. The checkmark never appeared on the YouTube mobile channel pages, which might explain in part why I didn't even know it existed, but the new checkmarks will. I think the problem here, more than anything else, is you just cannot take away once you've given. And this is the same mistake that YouTube made when they had monetized channels like my channel, and they said you had to have 100 subscribers. I have over 300 subscribers now, and I'm still not at their new metric of you have to have 1,000 subscribers. So yeah, you just, once you giveth, you can never taketh away, to speak old English, and they need to learn that. They need to come back and say, actually, we've made a lot of mistakes, and we're going to start evaluating some of these channels that have less than 1,000 subscribers and consider some of them for monetization, which is what they've kind of hinted they were going to do. But I mean, a lot of this stuff often is just teases and never happens. I had plenty of watch time, so I was getting people to watch YouTube and watch the ads. They just want you to have an arbitrary number of 1,000 subscribers. Meanwhile, they devalued subscribers even more since that happened, which was nearly, if not a year ago, 2 years ago, because they kind of just now generalize the amount of subscribers you have. They don't even list a directly accurate number. So if you have 1,000, it says 1,000. If you have 1,001, it says 1,000. Just rounding things up or down. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article here. Yi's Matry, CEO of CEO. Oh, we already talked about this. Yeah, the HTC CEO steps has been changed. We'll see what that affects, if anything. Beast Dragon. In the turn.
A place to hide.
I usually don't mention Kotaku articles, but they have an impression here. Apple Arcade is mobile gaming with all the BS. We'll see. I would like to see people's impressions of Apple Arcade. Of course, the problem, I think, more than most services, is you're locked in for a month. So you're going to have to be very confident to pay that $4.99 unless they have some kind of demo period I'm not aware of. So a regular video game person who puts their money where their mouth is instead of a video game journalist who gets free access to so much, you very well might just be locked in for a month in that experience, and after a month you may forget about it, or your opinions might double, might change quite a bit. So I think it'll be a while until I hear anybody has, I think, a realistic review of it. The ESA has an announcement. They have a new SVP General Counsel. I don't know what SVP stands for. Her name is Vetri. Yeah, Gina Vetri, V-T-E-R-E. She's Senior Vice President and General Counsel. So she's a lawyer, would be my guess. Changes happening at the ESA probably do mean something. But I don't know how much they mean.
You cannot stop the cloud here. Converting stored energy.
There we go.
Your history.
Ubisoft Montreal is looking for an animation programmer also. Let's see what software they would prefer you to have on that. Master's degree in math or computer science for a animation programmer? Weird. Experience in IKFK systems. I have no idea what that stands for. Is there any software in particular? Nope, they don't even say any kind of software that they expect you to know besides like C++ and C. Yeah, C, C++, still the programming language to learn. That's not apparently ever going to change or change anytime soon. let's see. Arrowhead Studios is looking for a gameplay programmer in Stockholm. By the way, if you're interested in that job listing, what did Arrowhead make? Doesn't really say. I think they may have made something or other, something of some relevance. All my 1 mana cards and the legendary cards? Sure. Why not do that? Yeah, let's do that and then play this next turn.
You belong to the bog now.
Just one. Next we have a game on Steam called Ancient Knowledge, which looks like it's a puzzle platformer. This might be a game, or this might just be an effort to make something that looks like the Prince of Persia 1 in 3D. So you have little bits of detail in every screenshot, but it's kind of a flat aesthetic too. Soft CGI. $11.69 discounted, English and Russian. I'll give it a follow, but I suspect there's a decent chance that this is just another Russian troll game. Or low effort Russian game, for lack of a better term. Alright. Next we have, at the end of your turn, restore 2 health to all friendly characters. Always interesting. You draw an additional 2 cards each turn. You're immune to fatigue. Interesting. After you play on a even cost card, refresh your hero's power. It costs 0 this time. I'm gonna take this because more often than not, losing against the final boss does involve some level of fatigue. So just being immune to it is great. That means that I can only be killed the traditional way. Do I want more Murlocs? No, I think it's too late to play Murlocs. Do I want health? I'll take that. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam. It's a bunch of Asian characters, and then it says The Flower on Christmas Eve. It's tagged as an RPG adventure game, but I suspect it's just a visual novel game. It might be a Chinese visual novel that is just really well animated, or it might be a bit of an indie Japanese visual novel. Either way, English is not supported, unfortunately. It's $4.19, which makes it a little too cheap for a Japanese visual novel. If it's a top tier one,
exactly is going
it
on
is
in this
Chinese.
desert?
I will say, this looks better than a lot of Chinese games. There is some off-character animation that you see, particularly in the male character. Like, no effort was done to draw this guy compared to these girls. Alright, back to the game. Gains +4/+4, and do we have a minion that we want to always start in our hand?
Quite the pickle.
Do we want to add these potentially to my deck? Let's see. Choose an enemy minion, add it to my deck. The Power of the Rock. Draw 8 cards. Divine Shield. Gain Divine Shield again. I'll take that. I will give this +2/+2. I will start with this already in
Wouldn't
my
mind that one by
hand.
my side.
Then do I want to replace something here? Sure. With 2 damage, give Cthulhu, that's useless. Stalag is useless because we won't have Fugan.
Ooh, the red one tastes like cherries.
Careful out there.
So, keep on playing, I guess. Next we have a game on Steam called Bloxius. Looks like it's a block puzzling game. Like a single screen Unity game. It does have a little bit better animation than most single screen Unity games, but yeah, it also feels like this was a game that may have been a mobile game at some point.
Something is not quite
$3.59, English and Russian. Yeah, for this quality in this type of game, I don't see a reason to put it on the fall list, even on the risk that it's a Russian troll game. And yeah, we definitely are getting a ridiculous amount of Russian language games, whether they're troll games or not. And see, I just now see the beginning of the end, and so this recording is going to be particularly long. Next we have an article here from TechRaptor. The end in Nari's quest has a cute fox, and that's about it. So apparently this is a review of the game, and they're not super happy with it. I think I saw this game, and it was interesting visually looking, but it was reviewed terribly. Let's go to the Steam page since we're not seeing anything here. Yeah, this is mixed reviewed, came out July 24th. It's a fox in a kind of like cyberpunk futuristic world, but yeah, doesn't really work, so no reason to put it on the follow list or anything. Let's
Converting stored energy.
I guess it's nice to get confirmation when games are bad, but not really necessary if I can already determine that through other means.
Put this apple on your head.
Photonic burst.
Next we have a game on Steam called Crowd Control, which seems to be some kind of strategy, coloring and walking over characters. It looks like it might be aggro, what is that game, aggro.io, done in just a slightly different way. It's free to play, single player with local multiplayer, English only. Visually this is unappealing, and that's all you've got to show for every screenshot. So yeah, nothing there. He's playing the cards that are the wrong. One of these cards is a fake card, and if I chose the wrong one, I would lose the right one and it wouldn't play. So, and that's definitely not something we want to have happen in that instance with that card.
Too many cards. Oh, bother.
Let's see, this is not going well, I can tell already. Right. This, and this, and
Photonic
this, and this, and then the turn. It's gonna be ironic if I die here before I make it to the final boss, but I think that's very possible what's gonna happen.
Too many cards. Oh, bother.
Let's see. Battle cries trigger twice.
secrets will uncover.
This. And Next, we have a game on Steam called Dark Parables: Portrait of the Stained Princess Collector's Edition from Big Fish Games, another hidden object game. Considerably large amount of them seem to be around monsters and vampires. $12.59 discounted. Apparently there's a whole pack here of Dark Parables hidden object games. Always way too expensive though. Got more than enough damage to win here. TechRaptor has an article, Get Good with Gadgets in Sparklight, coming to PC and consoles this November. This looks like this is a top-down game of some sort, maybe a Zelda-like a game. Let's go to the Steam page so we can see more. May have seen this already. Yeah, it's kind of a gadget-based Zelda-esque boss fighting game. Might be something to that. It's wish listing only at the moment, so we don't know the price, and we don't really have a release date, or so putting it on the fall list way too early. Game 1 attack. Battle cry. Discover battle cry. Can really only do this. Just trying to get all these cards gone. Alright. That. He's got nothing. He can do his 1/1 locusts or 0/1 locusts. So, very possibly gonna win at the end of this turn. Borderlands is tweeting out Borderlands 2 gold shift keys, so like that's nice to see, because it is a bit of confirmation that we're not going to just stop getting those. Although I think the odds were pretty low that that was going to happen.
The red one tastes like cherries.
Gamma Sutra has a blog if you're interested, why you should invest more in community management. That's funny and almost ironic coming from Gamma Sutra, but it's probably true also. What they mean by community management might be something different from what I'm thinking when I hear the phrase community management, but whatever. We will take some more mechs to work on that. TechRaptor has an article here. Amnesia Collection on the Nintendo Switch is so good it's scary. So apparently Amnesia, which is basically a walking horror game. It's not a walking simulator, it actually is a horror puzzle game. But it wasn't super demanding. So I'm not super surprised that it didn't port well. I'm not surprised that it ported pretty well to the to the Switch. Losing momentum here. Reggie Fils-Aimé, remember him? He used to be the guy in charge of Nintendo of America, which arguably maybe isn't in charge of much. Well, he is now joined the New York Video Game Critics Circle Board, which is something I've never heard of. I don't know how that really boils down to anything, but it does show an interesting point here of some kind of crony capitalism in a weird way. Like you worked as the #1 guy who was in charge of selling video games, and now the critics have given you a cushy job. This is why I feel that there should never be this line that's crossed. If you're a video game critic, you can never work in the video game development industry, and vice versa. Although, in all fairness, I never really expected that anybody would go the opposite direction and become a critic, even in this instance where I don't think he really is becoming a critic as much as he's getting a cushy paycheck to sit on some board that probably will only meet once a year or so and not really do any work. It's kind of strange too, because it's not like Reggie Fils-Aimé was just known for being the CEO of Nintendo. Like this is a rather odd step down for him. I believe he was also in charge of Pizza Hut or something like that, one of the pizza companies.
You were right to worry.
Mortals are so squishy.
And the other thing you could say about Reggie Fils-Aimé more than most CEOs is he hardly was a doddering old CEO or anything like that. He wasn't that old, so his retirement was, in my opinion, rather strange. Or his leaving the job, I guess you don't even really call it a retirement at this point. Moving on, Gamer Sutra has an article writing Firewatch and captioning the beauty of being alone. This is an article from 2016 that they retweeted. There's literally no reason to be talking about Firewatch. And since Firewatch is one of the blacklisted games because they threatened a false DMCA strike against PewDiePie, it's not a game that I'd ever want to give a highlight to. Alright. Let's see. Gematsu has the same article. Terminator Resistance announced for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It's announced really early and close to its release. November 15th. It looks cool, but it very possibly is a very short experience. Okay. Resurrect 3 mechs.
Quite the pickle.
That Resurrect 3 friendly mechs. Would that work for me? This, and then this, and then this. I'm about to lose.
Want to meet a new friend? Sand everywhere.
These dust devils are killing me. Alright, I managed to lose before I made it to the final boss, which this is the problem. In a nutshell, this is the total problem of doing these solo adventures, is that they just... Like, we were doing really good,
That was fun.
and still we totally lose, and we didn't make any damage whatsoever to the Plague Lord.
I shall have to begin again.
It's not just, oh bother, like they're vocalizing it. That's super annoying. But I guess I got the card packs, and we could see.
Splendid.
We didn't defeat another Plague Lord, so that wouldn't have changed anything. This weapon worked pretty well. This ability worked pretty well. And we would have had to defeat 2 more bosses to unlock this deck, which very possibly would have worked better. Alright, so let's hit back 12 times to get back to the main menu. Seriously, it's getting ridiculous. Let's cover the last bits of news, and then that's going to be it for the stream. TechRaptor has an article here. Total War Saga: Troy mixes myth with truth next year. This is a hype article, I guess. It doesn't really matter. I'm no historian, but I think in modern time the fall of Troy is not as big of a deal as it once was. So it's hard to think that a video game would be particularly intriguing around that. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Keywords expands its game audio services with TV plus Synchron Berlin acquisition. What is this? No. TVS is known for dubbing and localizing game content in German. Okay, and has worked with HBO, Warner Brothers, Cartoon Network, and Amazon. Okay. So, more localization maybe from the company Keywords. TechRaptor has an article here. Mojang is holding a vote on which Minecraft biome to update next. What biome would I think would need to be updated more? If anything, I would say the end still is kind of empty, but it serves its purpose. The Nether probably would do better if it was updated and had more in it to do, but it kind of has a decent amount. You might just go with the forest or one of the forests, which are just all trees. Or the desert kind of has stuff in it. And sky biome would be the best one. There's nothing in the sky biome. I don't even know if that's an official biome anymore. Gematsu has Dead or School rated in Australia. This is an odd game to even see get rated. It's the one where it's the RPG zombie game with some lewd anime girl imagery too, just thrown in for fun. We'll see how that actually reviews when it comes out. But Australia being conservative, I'm surprised it got rated. For the Switch, the Siberia trilogy launches October 31st. Siberia being 3 weird, I guess, almost like walking simulator adventure games. I don't even know what you would call them. They certainly do seem to have somewhat of a niche following, because they've managed to make 3 of them and port themselves to the Switch, which is a small accomplishment, not a huge one. Gematsu has an article here for the PC, PS4, and Switch. Ghost Parade launches October 31st. What kind of game is Ghost Parade? Let's see. It's also coming to Steam on the 31st. Yeah, no clue what Ghost Parade is. We'll just leave it at that and See if we can get more information later. TechRaptor has this article: Apple notarization requirements likely to heavily impact Mac gaming. They're saying for any game that's going to be available on the app ecosystem, you're going to have to get your files notarized. Or is it something special called Apple notarization? Oh, okay. It's got to be a verified publisher, like in Windows, where you often get the pop-up. It's like, this is not verified. It's almost like having a certificate, an SSL certificate on a web page domain. Okay, interesting idea. I don't think that really would affect the vast majority of people who want to put their games on Mac, because I think there's so few people that are bothering to put their games on Mac anyways that they'd be willing to go through that extra hoop. Next we have a game on Steam called Exercise the Demons, which looks like it might be a VR like experience of some sort. Maybe. One player reads the books, one player accomplishes the ritual in game. Oh, it's one of these co-op games. $17.99 discounted. It says it's single player, but but yeah, I can't play a game like this, and I can't really review a game like this because your experience is going to be drastically different based on whether or not somebody can follow directions and tell you. This is boyfriend and girlfriend fight simulator 2019 is what this is, because inevitably one or the other is going to think that the other person is bad at following or giving directions. So yeah, not a game I could put on a follow list. It looks pretty, but they should have made a real game instead of a odd social experiment. Let's see. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article: The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3 demo is now available, if you're interested in that. I think that's maybe just for the Switch. No, it should be for the PC too. TechRaptor doesn't really have any tags telling you that. It'd be nice if everybody adapted that concept. Next we have a game on Steam called Metro Explosion Simulator, which is probably a troll game, and offensive if I was to guess. 64 cents discounted, English and Russian. Yeah, this feels like a Russian troll game if I've ever seen it. There's a blog here on Gamma Sutra called Super Icon: The Long Slow Death of an Indie Studio. I don't know if you really care to read something like this. It's probably just an indie studio developer complaining, which, yeah, most indie studios fail miserably because they don't have the funds more than anything else to stay in business long enough to gain success and gain market share. It's a bad idea in any industry to try to start your own business unless you have a ridiculous amount of funding and expertise. Next we have a game on Steam called Lost Artifacts Frozen Queen. This is possibly part of a series of Lost Artifacts games. It's one of these resource simulator and strategy games that I'm never interested in. $5.99 discounted. French, German, Russian, and English. Yeah, nothing appealing there. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Seventh Circle. These might be things we talked about already. It looks like a Western visual novel of some interest. So I'll put this on the follow list. $11.99. It's a little expensive when it doesn't have full audio, but visual novels tend to be a little expensive. So, yeah, I bet this developer has not made anything else. Yeah, that's the case. Got about 8 more games to go through. We have a game on Steam called Affinity, which looks like it's just a bunch of random images. Short, relaxing, minimalistic puzzle game. Not interested. $3.99 is probably not worth it. So it's like a paper cutout puzzle game where you just put the pieces back together. So basically it's a jigsaw puzzle game, just with a little bit of different polish on it. Yeah, that's not anything of interest. Gamer Sutra has an article, How to Grow a Designer, What to Read, Where to Get Ideas, and Knowing Thyself. This is an odd idea because you potentially are reading this to have your kid be a video game designer and live out your fantasy, which is always a bad idea. Or you've just you're trying to be a video game designer and you're very, very young, where you could still enter that field and start getting educated, but by the time you even know what Gamma Sutra is, you're probably too late. And you probably would get better resources from going through schools. For better or worse, even if the schools and the colleges you go to are awful, they have accreditation, so if you just learn and regurgitate the awful way they're teaching, then you have a degree, for better or worse. Whereas if you self-teach yourself anything, you're going to struggle potentially the rest of your life to prove that you actually know what you say you know, and may have to create several successful games to get over that stigma, and you may still never get over that stigma. Next we have a game called Rue Pocket, which seems to be some kind of rocket simulator, low effort game with a lot of asset flip stuff. $11.99, English, German, and Spanish, Latin America. Not appealing. That just doesn't look like a real game there. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Chaos, which looks like it's an asset flip racing / first person shooter / zombie game. Alien game. Yeah, it seems like it's just a bunch of asset flips of a bunch of random stuff. Again. Fortunately, this is another good example of asset flip games looking better and better. $19.99, the English full audio it claims. That's not making it to the list. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. Sony Interactive Entertainment Japan Studio is having a fun meeting 2019 set for November 16. So it'll be interesting to see what is shown. If anything, it doesn't seem like much is going to be shown, and it seems like it is just a pay like $10 to show up and have this meeting that probably doesn't have anything to do with anything. That seems ridiculous. Imagine if Nintendo of America just said, random people can show up at our office if they pay $10 and we'll have a party. It doesn't sound very Japanese either. Next, Gamatsu has an article for the PC. Super Robot Wars 5 will be region locked to Japan and Southeast Asia. Steam page is live, but not accessible outside supported territories. Interesting. So let's click on this link, and I'm not in those areas. Oops, an error occurred when you're processing. Oh, I wonder how many of these oopses, which I see quite a bit of, are region-locked games, and not games that have just been removed. Well, it says this item is currently unavailable in your region at the bottom. I don't think so. I'm gonna have to remind myself to read that orange part before. Usually it says game does not exist. The idea of region locking a game on Steam is new to me. I don't see a reason really to do that, other than it probably doesn't support English language, but there's still not a reason to region lock it, because there's still a small percentage of people who can read and understand Japanese outside of those regions. But Japanese contracts are crazy. Next, we have a game on Steam called Crying Sons, which was rated very positive. What kind of game is this, though? Is it a puzzle game, or is it a shooter game? There's a strategy, like 4X game. Well, I don't think I can get into the details here. It looks like it might be a 4X strategy game of some sort in space. And while I do hate space 4X games usually, I'll give this one a chance since it is rated very positively. It's $24.99 with a whole bunch of language support. So, we'll see. We'll see next time I do a Steam list cleanup. Next we have Dreamland Solitaire. The odds of me ever purchasing another Solitaire games are close to zero. $5.59 discounted, English, German, and Russian. Looks like it's a fine Solitaire game, just not really worth that kind of money. Here's TechRaptor's article. Fortnite's next crossover appears to be Batman according to a leak. I don't know really what you're taking from Batman here, because I'm seeing people doing their deployment from Fortnite. I'm seeing a moon, and I'm seeing a dark area. This is a bit of a jump on this one screenshot alone to say this is Batman in Arkham City. This could just be a spooky Halloween section. And they might be slightly influenced by Batman. So we'll see. I could be totally wrong. They could be totally right, though. It could be a Batman crossover. Batman could probably use some good publicity in video games compared to Fortnite. Yeah, that really would be Fortnite helping out Batman more than Batman helping out Fortnite. TechRaptor has this crowdfunding spotlight called Hey Cutie, which is a video game, I think? No, it's a tabletop game, so it has nothing to do with video games. Okay. Also, they're talking about a crowdfunding thing, which I don't particularly want to support or encourage people to support crowdfunding things for as bad as they go most of the time. Next we have a game on Steam called Spirit Arena, which looks like a top-down twin joystick shooter game. The animation looks nice enough, but it's a multiplayer focused game, so it's not really for me. And looking at these screenshots, it does seem like it kind of just it's going to be rather generic and repetitive. $9.99, English full audio. Next we have a game on Steam just called Creatures, which looks like a low effort game, trying to sell itself maybe as a evolution simulator or an education game, but the graphics just do not stand up to modern standards, so forget it. Early access, $10.49, discounted, English only. No good. We have 4 more games. Next we have a game called Orpheus Dream, or Orpheus's Dream, which looks like it's a puzzle adventure game. It's free. So the question here is this the first part or the whole game? English and Chinese. Well, everything here seems to imply that this is just the game and it's just free. Okay. So when I run into a game that looks alright and it's free, I can only just highlight it now. If you want to play Orpheus' Dream, it's available. This developer is only selling the soundtrack. It's probably a incredibly short experience. Maybe a terribly translated Chinese experience. One assumes games that you install through Steam are safe from having any viruses or anything like that, so if you want to try it, try it. It's probably short, it's probably sweet, maybe it's good, but since I'm a video game critic who's criticizing games you have to pay money for to give consumer advice, there's really no consumer advice I can give for something that's free, other than try it if you want to or don't. Next we have a game on Steam called Everything is Mayo, which not only sounds disgusting, but doesn't look too interesting either. Let's see, 99 cents, third party EULA, English only. I'm not impressed by the graphics or the gameplay interface. None of the screenshots catch my attention, so yep, no on that. 2 more. Next we have a game on Steam called Hatch, which seems to be a climbing game where you're just climbing up this, probably an asset flip building higher and higher and higher. Kind of like Getting Over It with Ben Brody, but not. It's a simplistic 1-sentence description of the game. Yeah. I am perfectly fine with doing platforming and climbing in a game if you can give me a story, if you can give me a reason. But if you're just going to leave me with go up because you need to go, you should go up, I'm not interested. This is $2.99 discounted, English only. Yeah. They're calling it a PlayStation 1, Nintendo 64 first-person climbing game, which is really just an excuse for bad-looking graphics. So, no the Hatch. One last game. And then we have this game on Steam called Don't Give Up, A Cynical Tale, which looks like it might be based off a Game Boy game, or it's supposed to be something like Undertale. Yeah. I don't think that there's really a game here worth playing. The thing about Undertale in particular is it had a lot of opportunity to be a bad game and chose not to. Whereas what I'm seeing here looks like it, at times at least, does just go with low effort pixel graphics and simplistic looking imagery. $8.99 discounted is way too expensive. English full audio. Yeah, not interested. So, alright, that brings me to the Humble Bundle store. Let me just quickly see if there's any new bundle. I bet there isn't, being a Friday and all. Nope, doesn't look like it. Then I can look at my Twitter feed and we can see if there's anything new that really needs to be mentioned. There are definitely some games that have come out in like the last 5 minutes, but we don't need to go any further. I think I could probably curate that down. Check Raptor, 9 minutes ago. It'll do. Surprise delisted after Nicholas Fallout. What was the Nicholas Fallout? I forgot about this. It'll do surprise delisted after Nicholas Fallout. Back in 2016, Nicholas published It'll Do, a Legend of Zelda style game by Ludosity. Now the game has been delisted after some problems between the two parties. According to Twitter by Ludosity CEO Joel Nystrom, It'll Do has been delisted on all storefronts by publisher Nicholas. According to the tweet, Nicholas has recently learned that Ludosity has chosen to cancel their publishing deal with them. Had chosen to cancel their publishing deal with them 6 months ago. Nicholas had finally responded to the email and agreed to transfer back the game back to Ludosity. However, after a few weeks, they once again were not responding to emails. Then today, Joel discovered that It'll Do had just been delisted from all storefronts with no explanation. Yes, Nicholas is the game that's been accused of just not responding to emails, and says they're now trying to figure out how to delist the game. So this is a very public fight, certainly, that is going on. It'll Do 2 was available for PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. At the current time, it can't be purchased on any platform. I really wanted to cover that game too, and I hope I purchased it. Otherwise, I'll be as upset, I guess, as anybody else. And that there becomes the danger of digital storefronts. Back to my Twitter feed. Let's see if there's any other spicy bit of news, because that was pretty spicy. Microsoft begins Xbox Game Pass quest, let you earn rewards and points, and the Blair Witch movie. I'll talk about this more on Monday, but that's interesting to say the least. Meanwhile, I'm still scrolling down. I think we've probably seen all the news worth mentioning. Although we've been streaming for about 3 hours, and I'm only looking at tweets from an hour ago, so still is possible that several things happened. Gamma Sutra has an article, Making People Understand and Care About Your Game. That's an interesting blog. I'm sure they really have a grasp on that. I'm being sarcastic, of course. They didn't even make me understand or care about reading their article. Let's see. Tons of low effort games that I'm going to curate through over the weekend. Or at least a handful of them. Control's Epic game exclusively initially cost Epic $10.45 million. So did they make any of that money back yet? That's the question, because you would have had to get the sales from something else. Like, Well, YouTube Gaming is saying that Fortnite X Batman is happening. The Google Stadia Founders Edition pre-order bundle is sold out in Europe. That doesn't really mean anything. Borderlands 3 details a Bloody Harvest event from Gamatsu. Might be something worth mentioning there, but probably not. It's a little odd that we'd already be getting an event. But I guess that is the Halloween event. It's the first episode of the Borderlands show, which I have no idea what that is. So, we're trying to make Borderlands 3 more of a games as service, and that makes sense, certainly. Come on. There's tons of games that came out. Not that any of them are really good. Valve brings more updates to the more like this section. Good. It needs more updates. Yeah, that's it. That's all the news I've scrolled down through. So that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.